courses at NIDA, such as the Diploma of Musical Theatre and the Diploma of Stage and Screen. Welcome, and welcome to all of the wonderful people who've tuned in online today. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Manon Gunderson-Briggs. I graduated NIDA in 2016. And I thought that we could go around and introduce ourselves because we've got an amazing panel here for you guys with a wealth of knowledge that I'm sure will be very useful. So perhaps we could introduce ourselves with our name, our pronouns, and then I'd love it if you could share with me when you realised that this career was something that you wanted to pursue and why you chose NIDA. Yeah, but perhaps we just start with the names first and then we'll circle back. All right, so first, Sione.
My name is Sione Makilatu. My pronouns are he, him, and I graduated with a Diploma of Musical Theatre in 2023.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Josh McQueen, he, him, and I graduated from the Diploma in 2021.
Of Stage and Screen.
Of Stage and Screen.
I'm Carla, my pronouns are she, her, and I graduated from the Musical Theatre Diploma in 2022.
Amazing. And my pronouns are she, her as well. Now, if we could just go back in that same order, maybe start with you again, Sione. Could you tell me when you realised that this career was something you wanted to pursue, and why did you choose NIDA?
I think I realised I used to do it when I was a bit younger. Maybe I started at maybe 19, and I did it for 2 years full on because I was I'm passionate about this. I want to do it for the rest of my life. And then I overworked myself and I hated it. And then I had 2 years of just doing other stuff and taking a bit of a break. And then realised, this is really something I want to come back to. And around that time, I think COVID happened, and a friend who studied at NIDA came back and was like, you should go to NIDA, just try it out. And that was sort of the only reason I auditioned for it, because it's the only one I knew about. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's so interesting, because I had a similar experience in the sense that I had done a degree already at a different institution, and I didn't feel quite ready for the industry. So NIDA was kind of that perfect way to get me feeling regrounded and passionate about the industry. Josh, what about you?
Hello. I remember I watched my oldest brother in Little Shop of Horrors in 2013, and I was like, I love music. He was bad, but I loved the musical, and I was like, I think I could do better.
Brutal.
Shout out to Angus. But no, I sort of fell in love with narrative storytelling as a wider thing, and much like yourself, when I finished school, I didn't think I could go to NIDA, or it was a feasible career. So I went and did a business course for a while, and I did some plays on the side, and I always found myself gravitating towards the people in and around the plays and the musicals, and how accepting and warm and receptive they were to how just basic things, just how I was feeling that day, and one day I was it was the start of COVID, I was like, well, we're all going downhill, I might as well have a go, and and so I managed to get in, and I did the course for a year, and I'm a big advocate for it, because I think if you're looking for a 1-year course, specifically at NIDA, I think it's probably the best in the country. I've had friends who've gone to other places, and once they've graduated, they've wanted to come here as well, and yeah, I can definitely see why. There's a lot of passion here.
Totally, yeah. And if I wasn't clear at the start, the diploma courses here are just about a year. So it's either a really great way to set yourself up for future study, or to just train up for the industry, or like so many of us have experienced, after we've maybe explored other areas, to come back and do the year-long course here. Carla, tell me a bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I am from New Zealand originally, and all performing arts schools seemed so far away from coming from New Zealand. And I have always been right into musical theatre, dance classes and singing lessons and acting classes and everything that everyone else kind of does. But it just seemed so far away. So I ended up working as a teacher for a couple of years, and then ended up applying, because again, I think COVID really changed a lot of perspectives for a lot of people, because you start to realize that the world is not that serious and you have to just kind of go for what you really truly are passionate about. And I think I just had this midlife crisis, or hopefully quarter life crisis, and just kind of realised that I just wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I always had that pull for theatre. I always wanted to perform, and I didn't want to get to the end of my life and ask myself, what if? So I applied and I got in, and then I had 7 weeks to pack my bags and move country, and it was terrifying, but it was great, and probably the best year I've had of my life, to be honest.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Gosh, 7-week turnaround. That's pretty crazy. Maybe we start with you for this one. Josh, what was your audition like to get in? Tell me all about it without freaking anyone out here. It's a great experience.
No, it was really fun. I remember I think it was King Henry, it was the St. Crispin's Day speech. And I remember reaching out to a friend who got into the course a few years before, being like, everyone talks about preparation, but what the hell is that? And he said, you got to start sort of contextualizing where the monologue is within the actual play itself. So he encouraged me to go wide with it and sort of really understand and break it down, so that only for the performance, but also if I was sort of to some degree interrogated on what was happening within the actual monologue, I could respond to that. It showed that I went to the next level with the actual thing. But the audition process was actually really lovely. I thought, because I'd never actually been at NIDA before. So I remember rocking up and being like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should be here, but I remember Mark Garl was in the audition, and Monica, who does yoga in the course and movement in the course with us, and Adora was there as well. And so we were in a circle and we each gave a monologue, and then we did some improvisational exercises, which were less about how good you were at improv and more about your willingness to just get up there and fail and look like an idiot and have fun, because that's like the bedrock of teachability, is just really throwing off those inhibitions and just having a go. And so they were looking for that. Yeah.
Totally. And that is just such an important skill that I think everyone starts with at NIDA, is being prepared for the industry that comes after we graduate. Sione, tell me about your audition process. What did you have to prepare? How did you find it?
So I had to do, I think, 2 different songs of variations. It's a self-tape process. 2 songs of like different vibes, I guess, and a monologue which I ended up taping the words to next to my camera. Sorry, I couldn't remember the words.
Fair enough. We've all done that.
Don't move my eyes too much. I'm trying to read the little words. But yeah, and then because I'm from Queensland, so I had to go to a different theatre in Brisbane, and which is where I got to meet a lot of the who would soon be my teachers. And I'm talking from someone who's not very good at dancing. But I knew that was my weakness when I walked into the room. So I was like, whatever I do, I have to like show that I have room to build on something. And I think a huge thing when you're auditioning for NIDA is to not show the panelists that you have the ability, but you have the ability to grow and build on the foundations that you already have.
Yeah, totally. And did you find the dance classes that you did during the Diploma of Musical Theatre, did you find that they helped like improve your skills and your confidence in that area?
In some ways, yes. It was nice, and it was nice to be like so active. I sort of found where I prefer. I shockingly liked ballet the most.
What?
which I never thought would happen. Ballet and acro were some of my funnest classes.
Oh wow! Gosh, we didn't get to do acro. I'm so jealous. That's so cool. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Okay, Carla, what was your audition experience like?
So similar to Sione, we did a legit song. So I think it was anything pre-1950s. About that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then something a little bit more modern, ideally something with like a slower tempo and then a faster tempo, so you're kind of preparing yourself to show a little bit of variety. And then also a couple of monologues as well. Again, I was in New Zealand, so it was very Zoom orientated, which I was really grateful for, because everyone knows that auditions can be a really nervous space, and sometimes things don't always come out in the way that you want them to. So doing a tape was honestly, I think, a really big push for me, because it meant that I got to re-record, and 50,000 times my camera rolls filled with all my auditions. But, you know, I think if I had had that opportunity to audition in person, it would have ended up being very similar anyway, because you have to go into theatre and acting with the ability to fail, like Josh said. If you don't go in knowing that you can actually just, you know, be the silliest person in the room and draw in that attention and fall flat in your face, like that is the whole industry. And you're doing that now, after graduating and going into all these audition spaces. You have to be prepared to just, you know, sing a bad note or mess up a line, or it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think going into that space was so overwhelming, but I've learnt at NIDA specifically to fail.
Yeah.
It was, I think I came in very serious.
Yeah.
And I needed to let that go a lot.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, how else do we learn, right? So we've talked about, it's interesting that all of us have kind of experienced in our audition process, there were many different areas that were examined. So maybe, Josh, could you tell me, what did day to day look like for you during your stage and screen course? What were the classes like? What areas did you explore? Tell me a bit more about it.
Well, I remember initially sort of reading the itinerary and the course program, and there was obviously there's a stage and a screen courses, but there were things around that also, there were vocal classes, there was isometrics with Troy, there was movement, there was combat, and we did storytelling with Mark, and often we'd have ex-students and come in or Zoom in to talk to us, and these aren't just random, like we had Sam Worthington and we had Murray Bartlett, we had Mia. We had these amazing successful alumni come in and just form the fabric of the course. But I think for me, perhaps most interestingly, is I thought these classes were going to be very defined and in of themselves, but it all blurs into one thing, because like the stillness required and concentration at yoga boded well for screen performing, and then like the physical aspects for stage, like it all melts into one another, and I think that's probably highly calculated by the course, where it's sort of we'll fracture these different skills and components, and then over the trimesters we're going to find a way to synthesize them, and then you're sort of a completed performer in some way by the end, but you're never completed, because you're always
growing. I love that. I definitely found, I don't know about you, Sione and Carla, in the musical theatre course, what I absolutely loved about it is how many different tutors that we had coming in. You got to learn so many different skills and perspectives, and it was just totally invaluable. Now, we have to wrap up soon, so I was thinking maybe we could all finish by saying how we think NIDA prepared us for what was waiting in the industry. And I have a bit of an anecdote to share on this one, which was that I would not have gotten my first job if I hadn't come to NIDA, because my first job was in Muriel's Wedding, the musical, and down at Sydney Theatre Company when it first happened. And it was very difficult to get auditions at the time, and I could not get an audition for the life of me. I was a fresh grad, I had no experience. And then the designer of our showcase, Charlie Davis, our showcase at NIDA. Charlie Davis was there. He was doing the design on that one. He just happened to be in the production team of Muriel's Wedding. I happened to do a funny song during the showcase. He thought it was all right. Someone on the production team was asking, do you know any fresh grads who might be a bit funny? Charlie Davis said, oh, there was this one girl from NIDA and that's how I got in the room. So you just never know. I thought that was a really great preparation of how I joined the industry. But maybe in these last couple of minutes, could you share with me how NIDA prepared you for the industry, Sione?
Yeah, I think a huge thing about like just doing masters courses and everything is getting to know the tutors because they are industry professionals and you do make connections with people in the industry, which is larger than I thought it was ever going to be. I always get told connections and getting to know people is always a big thing, but I was like, oh, it's probably not that big, but it actually is huge. I think the first job that I learned was because I did a class with one of the choreographers, and yeah, so it just like so that is a huge thing as well. And it's also I had no insight on the industry when coming into this course, so it like really showed you a lot of if you're someone who is coming in blind, it like shows you a lot of the things that you don't really see on the outside of like the space.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Totally. What about you, Josh?
I think the most applicable thing that I sort of learnt from the course that carried into the industry was this sort of rhythm of self-taping. We had Les Chantry as our screen component tutor.
Wow, amazing tutor.
He's a great guy. But he would demand that, ask of us, whatever. Every Monday and Thursday we'd put self-tapes down. And right now, as someone who is lucky enough to get a good amount of auditions, I'm still in that rhythm of I might get a tape on Monday, due Wednesday. And then within that sort of 72-hour time frame, I have to make a lot of specific decisions on how I want to go about this tape, how I'm shooting it, who I'm shooting it with. And we learnt that in the course. And so I think that's one thing. And then the other thing was, I think your anecdote was bang on the money, where it's like NIDA is the industry in a way. And when you are on a set, chances are, whether it's the gaffers or the director, or it doesn't matter who it is, they either went to NIDA or afters. And that's, there was a 60 Minutes interview I just watched with Baz Luhrmann, and he talks about this. So I implore you guys to look that up. It was a really awesome interview. Yeah.
Totally, of course. And last but not least, Carla, tell me, how did NIDA prepare you for the industry?
I have a lot to say on this, but firstly, self-belief is so important. And I say that in a way of rejection is consistent. And it will be throughout the entire industry, and that is like 99% of your job. 99% of your job is auditioning, and I wish I had learnt that earlier. And I think NIDA prepared me for that, and going into that and having self-belief in the fact that we can achieve so much. On that, I also think a huge thing for me is that connection with your peers and the people who you kind of spend a lot of your time with outside of these walls, because making content and making, writing and exploring direction and exploring producing, those things are so important as well. And I like that at NIDA it was quite a collaborative space between courses as well, because it meant that we got to work with the makeup industry and the props team and, the set designers, the directors, the writers, because it meant that we had all of these amazing connections that we could then go and create our own stuff and wasn't just always waiting around to be cast in something. I think that was such a beautiful piece of information to learn out of NIDA, and also becoming like a mental and physical athlete. Because musical theatre was, you'd think musical theatre is easy. Let me tell you, those classes,
It's tough out there.
Tough work.
Yeah.
And it was, 5 hours of dance a day. Like it was challenging, but it was the best thing ever.
Totally. Oh, what a beautiful note to end on. And please, if you don't know these amazing panellists here, Sione Mafilatu, Josh McQueen and Carla Tepar, please do look them up. They are doing incredible work. Thank you so much. I know we've gone a couple minutes over time, but thank you for listening. Thanks for coming today. Thank you to everyone online, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.